Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. I'm Chris Garner, joined tonight with George and Tate to give our review on the latest installment in the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World franchise, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, directed by J.A. Bayona. I don't know how to pronounce his name, guys.
Chris, you've got to say that with more pizzazz.
It's really hard. It's really hard to say like J.A. Bayona. You're like John Boyega.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get it right.
So as always, we're going to start off with spoiler free. We're not sure how long we're going to have Tate for tonight because he's got to take off early, but we'll do spoiler free first. We'll rattle through that pretty quickly and then we'll get into spoiler territory. I guess we're going to kick off as usual with the trusty IMDb for the plot of this thing, in case the trailer hasn't already given away the entire movie, which it pretty much did.
Back to the IMDb here just says watch the trailer, but I'm going to continue. Island's dormant volcano begins roaring to life. Owen and Claire mount a campaign to rescue the remaining dinosaurs from this extinction level event. Can I just say for a second, from the first film, I had no idea their character names were Owen and Claire.
No, neither did I. It's Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, let's be fair. So we usually start with initial impressions from trailers or the first movie and things like that. We have actually reviewed all of the previous Jurassic Park films. Unfortunately, I think our Jurassic World review was one of our old school reviews where we had about an hour of news at the head of it. So if you can skip through that, you can find our review of Jurassic World. In short, I hated Jurassic World. It was probably one of my least favorite movies from that year. I thought the concept of the park actually open was a cool concept, and that was neat to see, but I just didn't care for any of the characters. I didn't like Chris Pratt, didn't like Bryce Dallas Howard, and the CGI on the dinosaurs I didn't think held up very well. Essentially, it was just a miserable experience for me, but I think that Tate actually disliked it even more than me, if that's possible.
I was just repulsed by the first film. It's everything that's wrong with generic blockbusters. It doesn't even feel fun. The narrative that they set up is not only boring for a film that should be very exciting, but made no sense in the universe that it already set up. It was an insult to the original Jurassic Park films, and I just really hated almost everything about that film.
It felt like a soft reboot a lot of the time.
There was some elements in there which were okay, and some parts of it which I could let slide, but overall, it was one of the most disappointing films I've ever watched, up there with Prometheus and levels that I really dislike it. And really, what it came down to was the writing staff and Colin Trevorrow, or however the hell you pronounce his name, who's now, I will tell you my opinion on this film. I didn't like this film either. He's gone free for free on terrible films with The Book of Henry, which, apart from Emoji Movie, everyone considered it to be the worst film of last year. So really, why is anyone letting him near a large production?
He didn't direct this one, but he does have a writing credit.
He didn't direct this one, but he does have a writing credit. He's the lead writer on this.
And
so really, anything
he's directing the third one.
Yes, yeah.
It's true story. They asked J.A. Bayona to direct Jurassic World, and he said no. And then he said he'd do the next one because he didn't like the scripts.
Well, fair play to the guy for being honest. Can't hold that against him. George, I can see that you were just like, you had so much to say on that. You liked it, didn't you? You liked Jurassic World. The first
I'm
one.
sitting here trying not to sing the theme tune and make dinosaur noises too old. I absolutely adore Jurassic World. I was on such a dinosaur hype when I saw that film that actually, if this is a cool bit behind the scenes info for anyone that ever saw our early stuff, it was all pre-recorded, right? When me and Chris were recording a Jurassic World review, I literally stopped halfway through, went to the cinema, watched it again. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember when?
Oh, yeah, we had it in two halves, didn't we? You're right.
Yeah. Back in the day before the live streams. I adored Jurassic World. I think I saw it 3 times at the cinema, which is like, that's like average for a film I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And I had an absolute blast. I loved the concept of the park being open. That was, to me, the only place they could take the franchise as a soft reboot, make the park open, make hell break loose. I loved the Indominus Rex, the concept of taking the DNA stuff one step further, because they put you in there with the whole, everyone's bored of dinosaurs. They've been around for ages now. So we're going to up the ante with this. I liked that kind of contextual stuff that kids sat there on their phones bored at theme parks. Don't get me wrong, there are issues with the film. I didn't like Chris Pratt in it as someone that followed him from Parks and Rec through his early comedies, Guardians, all that jazz. Really didn't like him. attempting to be Indiana Jones, kind of.
Yeah.
A bit of a head start to this one. I think he's a bit better in this, but
Yeah.
he was far too serious in the last film. They restricted all the comedy off him that naturally he gives, and I don't know. I didn't like him that much in that. Bryce Dallas Howard, I always liked, so that's a win there. And I really enjoyed it. Even the T-Rex and the Velociraptor team up. The first time I was at the cinema, I'll tell you what. If I was American, I would have cheered. It was great. I loved it. Time of my life. Upon rewatch, I thought, will I hate this film? Because at this point, I mean, the first few times I knew Chris, I didn't know Tate. Tate said he hated it. I thought, when I watch Jurassic World next, am I going to hate it? 1 month ago, I watched the film, and I loved it.
I actually haven't rewatched it. I was going to try, because I know we were talking about doing an idea, weren't we, where we go back and re-review some of the other films, give them another watch. I was going to do that with this one, but I couldn't make myself do it. And actually, another bit of history of the channel, this is kind of the movie that, well, not really ties us all together because we were reviewing it long before we got to Jurassic World, but with Tate, when we, put a casting call out there, if you will, like an advert for another person to bring on the channel, your sister sent me a link to your YouTube channel, yes. Tate, and it was actually your Jurassic World review that I watched and thought, you know what, this guy might fit the bill. He has a shared hatred of Jurassic World, and I could get behind that.
I really did rip into it hard, and I'm likely to do the same on this one, mainly because I have actually rewatched Jurassic World. I watched it twice. I watched it once before doing my review then, and I watched it this winter in Austria. And I can tell you now exactly the same thoughts behind my first viewing. I was right, and it's just such a predictable, dumb blockbuster film. And I can get behind some dumb blockbuster films. But if you're going to do a dumb blockbuster film, I want original material. I don't want it to build off something that's already there. I want it to be like Pacific Rim was, which was taking elements from other films and ended up being quite enjoyable just for the dumb violence that was involved in it.
Pacific Rim was one of the biggest disappointments in cinema.
I didn't have any hype going into it. I didn't really know much about it. I just walked into the cinema and quite enjoyed it. But like with this film, it's got that backstory. It's got all of that. But it wasn't nearly intelligent enough of a film to follow up from the previous films of the franchise. And coming from the age where we've got Mad Max Fury Road, which is an example of a soft reboot that works for a franchise and can show that like the franchise isn't dead. The first Jurassic World film made a lot of money, but I keep on finding myself thinking, why?
Mm-hmm.
It's an awful film. And this film's probably going to make a lot of money as well. And then once again, I'm going to say, why? It's an awful, awful film. It isn't even slightly enjoyable. I found myself head in hands in the cinema. That's how bad it was.
This is going to be an interesting review because I think for the first time in a long time, we're going to be all evenly split. Like, George, I know you loved it, Tate hated it, and I'm somewhere in the middle, although I can completely agree with both sides. I'm going to use a phrase that I used earlier in the solo review that I did, in that I think that Jurassic Park as a franchise is kind of creatively bankrupt at this point. I really think they've mined the well of pretty much everything they can do with the property, to the point where now they are repeating big story elements from previous entries. I'll give them credit for Jurassic World, as I said, for having the park open. George, you just said it. Like, I think that's the only way they could have gone with it. And in all fairness, I will give them some credit for the first half of this movie, in that with every Jurassic Park film, you have to have the reason to get the main two characters back to the island or back to the area with the danger of the dinosaurs. And that's increasingly difficult to do the more sequels you do. But I think the reason they had for it, in this one, with the whole volcano about to erupt and all the dinosaurs were going to get wiped out, there's this great thing at the start where it's the moral dilemma of animal rights activists saying that dinosaurs have rights too, and then you've got some people on the other side saying this is almost like an act from God, it's a course correction, let them die. I really liked that dilemma, and I thought that was interesting. I thought they could have gone further with that. But it really feels like a movie in two halves. I didn't actually mind this movie. I think it's a vast improvement on the first Jurassic World film. I think there was more to it. I think they were trying to say more. And I think that the likes of Chris Pratt, for example, and Bryce Dallas Howard, they had managed to find their characters a bit more in this one. I didn't dislike them as much as the first one, and I was entertained by it. That being said, I did have a lot of problems with it, and one of them is that it feels like a movie in two halves. You've got like almost an original story idea where they had this idea of we need to get the dinosaurs off the island before it erupts, and then you've got the second half of the movie, which feels more akin to what we've seen before, the likes of The Lost World, where you want to capture these dinosaurs and exploit them for money and sell them on to the highest bidder. And, you know, potentially they might get released and things like that, like exactly how The Lost World went. And it felt like it was two halves. I think they should have either stuck to one idea. I'd have been actually more in favor if they'd have stuck to the first half and maybe have that as the whole movie. Get them to the island, have the volcano as your ticking clock, the race against time, and then have all your dinosaur action in the middle. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Am I safe in saying that we're allowed to talk about things that were in the trailer?
Yes, that's
so the whole film.
So we're allowed to basically talk about most of the film. The betrayal comes very early on. The betrayal was one of the things which I was very disappointed in the trailer. In the trailer, you see Chris Pratt going and finding Blue, and then suddenly the army guys start closing in, and you even have Bryce Dallas Howard saying the line, "It was all a scam. It was all a lie." And
you
stuff
blew
like
it up. Damn you all to hell.
Well, here's the thing, like. This film, just like Chris said, could have worked better if they had that being the end or the finale of the actual film. And having that as kind of not even the midpoint, it's the end of the first act. And it's disappointing, to say the least, that this is the direction they took this film in. It takes almost exactly the same elements beat for beat, except for maybe the opening the park element and the premise of that. And it takes all of the major plot points of the first film, even the source of the villain, just the situations that they're put in. It's all exactly the same as the first film. And maybe it's executed better in this film, which I will agree, and the direction is way better in this film.
Yeah.
I can agree that direction is a lot better. But the premise is still staggeringly boring and not like used correctly. It's not being handled well, and it just feels like if you've got a film which is better but more boring than a film that like I disliked in the first place, I don't know what's going to happen with this franchise anymore. And I don't know if I'd even want to go see another film, like if it's the same team behind it. They've already proven that twice over now they can't execute this when they've got the stars, they've got the resources, they have the technology, funnily enough, to go and make this film as good as possible. And especially with the CGI advances of like what cinema and film has been able to do over the last 5 to 10 years, one thing that still remains staggeringly ridiculous to me is the fact that the CGI of the dinosaurs in this film are not as good as the original Jurassic Park. The textures of the dinosaurs are better, but the actual overall CGI,
it's the integration.
It doesn't compare, and that's disappointing beyond belief.
I don't know where to begin. I don't know where we're
talk first. I talk first. Like
I don't know where we're at in terms of actually discussing this film, because I felt like there's like 10 plot points in there which we could all be talking about.
Yeah.
CGI, because that's the last thing that was said.
Yes, let's go for that.
CGI lava may be honestly one of the worst bits of CGI I've ever seen in my life. I think I messaged you guys after I watched it.
Yeah.
I was struggling to concept that thought, and it's in my eyes still. I thought it was. I don't really know where I stand in this series. You're right. It's not as good as the first Jurassic Park film, and I think that's because that is a perfect. I mean, you're right. You know, the textures are different. It's more modern. But I think back then it was the perfect blend of having these animatronics with.
Yeah.
The CGI was only there when it was completely impossible to use the animatronic. Whereas here, there are definitely a lot more animatronics in the previous few films. However, the CGI stands out like a sore thumb in this. So
the green screen and stuff.
I don't know the breed of the tiny dinosaur, but you know at the start of Jurassic Park 2, where the little girl, the little ones that are nipping on the feet. We get a lot of them that are in the background in this, and they stand out horrifically. Whereas you'll have some CGI, say the T-Rex, the Indoraptors, animatronics, and CGI together. But I feel watching that the dinosaurs they cared about had great CGI, and the ones that were irrelevant had awful CGI, and that stands out because it's the inconsistency. But that goes back to the point that Jurassic Park 1, it only uses dinosaurs on screen when it has to. People forget that almost the first 45 minutes you don't see.
It's like Jaws effect, really, isn't it? Kind of a little.
Yeah,
bit.
And you get your glimpses, and the best thing of this film, with that film, okay, we got the herbivores first. Every time they build up the carnivores on the journey around in the car, then you finally start to get them, and that is what makes that film perfect. Whereas to the point where now 5 films into this franchise, there's no point doing Godzilla and hiding your dinosaur for an hour and a half because we all know what they look like, we all know what they do. So it's this very weird position where it goes. But I mean, let's be honest. No film with dinosaurs ever going to come close to Jurassic Park. Very few films in history can come close to Jurassic Park. But with this one itself, it felt. I mean, I hated the fact they were going back to the island. The first trailer, i.e., the one that came up Last Jedi, I thought, wow, was the entire film spoiled that it was the lava blowing up? I mean, we see the volcano explosion with the T-Rex. I thought, is that the entire film? Trailer 2 took that step one. Trailer 2 did it one step further. That did show the entire film. But what got me with Trailer 2 is that it made me more excited. Like, oh, they're going to get off the island. And, I was worried, okay, is it going to be like Jurassic Park 2? Is it going to run around the streets for 2 hours? But actually, it was its own mansion. And it felt so... I don't know if they're in spoilers or not. I'm talking about the trailer still.
It almost felt like a horror movie, didn't it? How you were like,
that's what I've been building
like a slasher movie or something.
Yeah, I thought the trailers. I thought there's multiple kids in different houses that it was going to be playing with, but actually it was so constricted to this one estate, and it felt so fresh and it upped the tension. I felt quite tense in some moments with the Indoraptor. I loved the design of it, the actual fact that it would have been too easy for them just to have them running around the street killing loads of people, and then at the end of the film, it goes back to what it is. Whereas this, let's keep it constrained in this estate for technically the big spoiler, which we'll talk about later. But it surprised me, and it's the combination of low expectations and knowing what's going to happen. And sometimes it can work, and I felt like it did with this. Because I'm different to you guys. The stuff on the island really bored me because we knew they'd turn on them. And it was, we know that dinosaurs are going to be there. I loved the fact they were selling them on. The fact that we had all these mini Putins there, being 20 million.
Can I very quickly interject? Instead of having the military, if they'd had a team of scientists, and the scientists turned out to be the ones that were actually military, so they're kind of made up to look like scientists who are going.
I'm confused. So is this Now You See Me 3?
No.
So you want scientists to pretend to be military?
No, I want military to pretend to be scientists and then double cross them at the end.
So they've got like an army jacket underneath and they just whip off like the white coat and it's like guns blazing.
What I want them to do is I want them to kind of be there, just kind of in the background, helping them out all the way through. And then suddenly when the time comes, that's when they'll do it. Because the military were the villains of the first Jurassic World film, really.
No, the Indo-Rex was. They were the military were the build up to this. I mean, the real villain is BD Wong.
The background. They were always in the background. They were always they basically released the Raptors. So it's.
I don't. The military, I can't see as villains in this film. The villains are the bankers and the businessmen.
It's definitely not the military that is the ones who double cross and actually capture them and take them.
No, it's the guy that hires them to do as he says.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to imagine BD Wong in like a gun bandolier at this point. Like, I've just not seen it, Tate. I'm sorry, I'm not with you on that one.
I'm not saying BD Wong. I'm saying that they could have scientists, instead of it being the military and the military dressed as the military and the military are the ones who actually double cross in the end. It would have been better if it was disguised, if they didn't know if they could trust them or not. With the military, with this film, you already knew that they weren't to be trusted, like straight from the offset.
That's always been the way with these movies, though, hasn't it? I don't think, apart from the end of Jurassic Park 3, I guess, when they kind of saved the day.
If they turned around and said, look, we're sending you to the island, here's a team of scientists who will help you to extract them. And then the team of scientists weren't a team of scientists, but instead a military squad who ended up being the double crossers.
I don't think you could send scientists in to get them out of a situation. Like, you need military for that. Like,
they are not scientists; they are military.
You just said scientists.
They are dressed and acting as scientists.
What's the point of acting like a scientist then, if you know they're military to help them?
This is like the Christopher Nolan Jurassic World.
Right. A lot of stuff has been said. Like, I need to like go back. Am I okay to talk about the CGI a little bit? And I know what I get like when I talk about CGI. I'm going to keep this brief. I did have like so low expectations for this movie. I hated pretty much every trailer that had come out for this thing. I didn't like Jurassic World, and I didn't expect to like this one, and I did find it very entertaining. However, one of the things that did stick out to me was the CGI in this movie. And like, I know, like, George, you mentioned it. I think when we were at Comic-Con as well, they had like a bunch of screens up showing the animatronics and stuff, saying they did dial up the animatronics a lot more in this film. I was looking out for them, and there were really only two that I could pick out. There's one where there's an injured dinosaur on like a vet table kind of thing, which was definitely animatronic, but I think they probably enhanced it with CGI in the face a little bit. And there's probably a shot, it's in the trailer, where the Endoraptor's jaws and the claws are kind of coming out the dark and towards the bed with a kid in it, and I thought that was probably an animatronic. Everything else was pretty much CGI right up close to the camera, and there's a lot of moments in these films where if you have a dinosaur right up close to the camera, use a puppet. If you're doing your far away shot or anything, do it CGI, and it just doesn't do that. There's a lot of moments where, and I kind of feel like we're almost like the kids from Jurassic World, where we're seeing these dinosaurs now and we're kind of bored by them. There's never those moments now where in the original Jurassic Park movie, when you see that first Brachiosaurus, where you are almost in awe with the characters. And I guess that goes to a lot of like Spielberg's direction as well, where it is almost like you're seeing a dinosaur for the first time. CGI's come so far, we see it in everything now. You're never going to have that shock surprise, but there is a moment in the film, and my least favorite moments in the film, where they are constantly trying to harken back to that iconography or something that happened in the previous Jurassic Park films. They do try and recapture that moment of that Brachiosaurus scene, and it's got none of the charm, none of the whimsy. The soundtrack just doesn't kick in. There's none of it, and it feels like an empty shell. And a lot of the action scenes in this film, I'm going to move it on to more of the action now. I didn't find myself getting invested in the characters or the peril that the characters were in, purely because none of it seemed believable. There's countless moments in the film, and I can't be too hard on this because I know that the original Jurassic Park movie did it at least twice in the film. They're just about to get eaten by something, just about to get taken out, and then boom, there's always a bigger fish, and like the T-Rex comes in and saves the day, or they get out of it somewhere. But it seemed like they did that trope so many times with this one, almost every action scene. And not just that, but the action scenes were really overblown, really over the top. The whole volcano action scene that you see in the trailer with like the stampede and what's his name? Chris Pratt's like Bruce Wayning through the ash and the fog.
I kept thinking of Tom Cruise and the Mummy.
Yeah. It's just, you know, you're doing too much. Like, you've got them in the glass pod, and the dinosaurs are chasing them, and the volcanoes erupting, and the launch over the cliff into the water, and the drowning, and dinosaurs are falling. It's too much. You don't need that in a Jurassic Park film. Keep it simple. And there's a lot of scenes like that where they do have to ramp up the CGI purely because it's larger than life and it's way over the top. And that takes you out of the moment. Something so relatable and simple as a couple of people trying to climb over an electric fence in the original Jurassic Park film is infinitely more tense than any amount of CGI can make in this movie.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think one thing, you had me somewhere, but I've got lost trying to remember what you said that I was going to talk about. The island stuff, the lava, all of that. I don't know if I'm entering spoiler territory or not, but it makes out there is one fantastic Brachiosaurus. There is a great scene with Brachiosaurus in this film, but it's not the scene you described, and we'll get that one is a spoiler, I guess. My issue is the Act 1, the volcano exploding, all these dead dinosaurs, and I mean, we know in the trailer they all get to the auction house. You're like, oh, as that one dies, has Rexy died after 25 years? And magically helicopters appear and they're just carrying all these dinosaurs, like they've just gone into the lava and grabbed them all at the last second. And I felt not a bit cheesy. I was like, that's a bit too easy.
Yeah.
But the CGI it was very noticeable. And I mean, I know it's expensive to do CGI, but there was just There's just too much of it. Did we need all the mini things from Jurassic Park 2, like in the background? It felt like the George Lucas prequels, like on the Blu-ray edition, they just keep adding loads of battle droids in the background. That's what they reminded me of because they stuck out way too much. Take them out, and it just saves you a bit of screen time. It just saves them a bit of budget, and it just means you can focus on the characters at hand. But yeah.
I think what it ultimately comes down to now is I need to kind of get over the fact 4 movies after the original that I'm never going to have another Jurassic Park movie like the first Jurassic Park movie. There's never going to be a Jurassic Park movie that hits like those ethical questions and stuff like that first one did, while still being a very thoroughly entertaining summer blockbuster film and have all the tension and just like the groundbreaking effects that the first one had and what that did for cinema. We're never going to get another one like that. What Jurassic Park has become, for better or worse, for worse, is that it's now just become sort of a dino action blockbuster, and that's it. If you're okay with that change and you can get behind it and you can kind of switch your brain off for 2 hours and just enjoy some dino fun, then there is entertainment to be had there. I was entertained by this movie. I know now where the franchise is sort of heading. I do think this was definitely a drastic improvement on the first Jurassic World. That being said, there still are a lot of problems that I had with it. There are still the countless references to things that we've seen in previous ones. There's a lot of story beats that are repeated, which makes it feel very been there, done that. And one of the weakest aspects of this film, not that it should be the main focus anyway, but the whole human villain side of this film was one of the most two-dimensional and just absolutely abysmal villains from the get-go. It's money, it's business, it's mustache twirling. There's no 3 dimensions.
It's just good business.
Almost pantomime.
You knew from the first second a character was introduced that he would be a villain. I'm not going to say who he is. There is only one of 2 possibilities if you check the Wikipedia cast. The only plot twist to me was that both the other humans weren't villains, that it was actually only one of them. And then it got very dark very quickly, and then it resorted back to what it was. No, it's too obvious. What we know, they're going to get betrayed because of a trailer, so we know who's the guy running the operation. Yeah. I do like the fact that we get links to... I almost said Richard Hamilton. That's not who. That'd be a very different series.
Is he going to crash another car in the movie?
I'm trying to think of a really good dinosaur joke. But the human stuff, it's like the other Jurassic Park films. The least, bar Jeff Goldblum, just bar Jurassic Park 1, the human stuff, even with the original characters come back in Jurassic Park 2 and 3, any human, even if they're cast, they're just boring. They don't add anything. And I felt like that with Goldblum in Jurassic Park 2 just feels like let's just try and carbon copy his text from 1 and change it. Sam Neill in Jurassic Park 3 just looks tired and bored. I
still love Jurassic Park 3. Like I mentioned that in the comments, but like it is that sort of barely 80-minute dino B movie. I will say though that the human characters in Jurassic Park 3 are a lot worse than any of the human characters in this one. However, there is one character in this movie who I think Tate predicted it, I predicted it, is sort of like a comic relief sidekick, and he is like Leo from Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, where he is screaming, he is flailing his arms. He is like the Jar Jar Binks character in this movie. Every moment he's in peril, you just want him to die. And I guess I can't confirm or deny whether he does or not.
There is 2 side characters, one which was handled really well, actually, and was one of the characters I actually thought was decent, and one who was handled in the worst possible way. And you could tell from the opening minute that they were going to be handled in that way.
I like the young girl. For once, it's a trope of the Jurassic Park franchise to have kid cast members, and I could not stand the Jurassic World duo. There was nothing more I wanted to see than the Indominus Rex tear them into pieces in front of Auntie Claire. They didn't even get name dropped in this film. And the character, I've forgotten her name. She has a very interesting arc, but it's not the usual screaming kids. I mean, obviously that stuff naturally happens, but it's not that let's focus on her for 10 minutes more than we need to. She's developed within the story.
I thought she actually... Yeah, I thought she gave a really mature performance, actually. I wasn't irritated by her or anything.
And she was the right age. She was about 10, 11, rather than like 5 or 6 or 15 or 16. It was that middle age where I think it worked best, and having been tied in like the original, because I mean they were annoying, but they were the grandkids of I always get David Attenborough mixed up with Richard Attenborough. I always get mixed up. Because they were the grandkids, you know, they were tied into that story so vaguely, and it was the innocence that they were there on that day. Whereas the story builds around her, and then to the end it asks them moral questions again regarding her character, which is the only plot twist not spoiled in the trailer, I guess we could say, which was actually a very good twist.
Tate apparently called it, which
I did.
You can't say what it is, but you called it way before.
When we get to spoilers, I'll tell you who I thought it was going to be.
I think me and you, George, might be on the same page with that one.
Every single beat of this movie I called at least 20 to 30 minutes beforehand, including the big...
Did you think the military were scientists?
No, I did not. I knew the military were the villains from the start.
But the scientists were the villains, but dressed up as the military.
No, it was really, really obvious where this film was going, including the big spoiler drop, which I will say the spoiler drop they do in this film is handled awfully. I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm going to say that it was handled terribly, and the consequence of it were minimal.
I would completely disagree, but we'll get to that.
I think they drop it and kind of sweep it under the rug and make you forget about it for a little bit and don't really do anything with it. They might do something with it in the next movie, but I don't know. I think we've pretty much said everything we can at the moment. I will say that Ted Levine, I think his name is, the guy who plays Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. He's in this movie. He's kind of the Pete Postlethwaite character from Lost World. Has this trope of wanting to pull dinosaurs' teeth. I kind of liked his character. He's a neat little character.
I loved him. I sat there with the first time we see him. I was like, I really hope this isn't going to be American sequel bait reboot version of Peter Postlethwaite. And it wasn't. Thank God. It was basically just the most make America great again military person you could have fighting dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So I was happy it wasn't Peter Postlethwaite. He's probably in my top 5 Jurassic Park characters.
Yeah.
There's something just amazing about him in Jurassic Park 2. And he's the best thing about that film.
Brindsley is just beating me to the comment. He puts the lotion on the dinosaur. Damn it. We could talk about the soundtrack. I
was about to bring it. I'm a humongous Michael Giacchino fan. I watched Coco for the first time on Friday night. Don't know why I said that. I was really disappointed with the soundtrack.
Same.
I mean, I know you guys don't know Jurassic World, and I loved it, but I adore that soundtrack. Have it on vinyl. Heard it live last year when they put it out at Hall. I thought, I mean, we always say he is the next John Williams. He is at this point, and he didn't get an awful lot to do.
No,
and I don't know if that was the tone, and certainly in the second half of the film, there's not as much he can do because it's so restricted. But I'd say I was disappointed, in all honesty, with that soundtrack. I was really looking forward to hearing something new, but nothing for me.
There was not a single part of the soundtrack throughout the entire film that encapsulated me at any point. It was all background music, and it all had elements of previous Jurassic Park films, like it was playing a homage to previous music from the films.
See, I don't think it did enough of that. I honestly don't.
It didn't feel like a Jurassic Park soundtrack.
What I'm saying is, it's had the Jurassic Park kind of intakes and extracts and stuff like that put into it, but it was so backgroundy that it almost felt like elevator music. It blended into every single scene, but not in a good way. Sometimes you want a soundtrack to be powerful and emote emotion onto the screen, and this just kind of bled into obscurity and nothing really was there.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think we got a full fanfare of the original theme until the end credits. You get like a few little piano interludes of the main theme that kick in every now and then, which were nice. And even I think Giacchino wrote sort of like his new version of the main theme for Jurassic World that played quite a lot through that movie. I remember like a big fanfare. I think we only get that once. Everything else is very sort of incidental, very backgroundy. Nothing stands out. I still think he has managed to capture that feel of a John Williams soundtrack in terms of the instrumentation and how he constructs the score, but I'll agree this was there was nothing in this score that stood out to me. And maybe with a better score, it would have got me more invested in the moment. I don't know, but I was really disappointed not to hear the Jurassic Park theme at least a few times.
And another thing with the soundtrack, trailer 1 wasn't a great trailer, but the soundtrack was great in that trailer. And I don't know if Giacchino composes, sometimes he does for trailers, but I thought we'd get more of that kind of horror beat, especially with the second half of the film. That I didn't even feel like we got that. I don't know. I mean, the guy's got Incredibles 2 out in a couple of weeks, so maybe that's been his focus last year. But I was disappointed heading into that, and it's not a soundtrack I'll be picking up. Whereas, when he did the Jurassic World theme, it worked so well considering the park was open and stuff. There wasn't really much he could do with this one, but yeah, it was. I mean, even the first one, the military had their own little mini theme, but none of it in there. So yeah, I was disappointed. The soundtrack it's not memorable. I couldn't remember a single soundtrack beat off my head right now, which is a shame. I
do want to see his track listing because he always comes up with some great titles for his soundtracks, but I'm not going to go back and listen to the soundtrack at all. I think we should move on to spoilers now because I know that we're sort of down to the wire with the time a little bit on this one tonight. So recommendation, I would still recommend people go and see this one. I think that if you go in with the right expectations of what this movie is going to be, that it's not going to be what that first Jurassic Park movie is now, but it's going to be a somewhat entertaining time. You're going to have some dino action in there. You're going to have a few chuckles maybe along the way, but it is inherently still going to be a fairly dumb movie. Just like take your popcorn in, watch some dinosaurs for 2 hours, and that's it. I think you're going to have a good time. I went in with no expectations at all. And whilst I didn't love the movie and I have a lot of problems with it, I was still entertained by it. So if nothing else, it's an entertaining time at the cinema. I will say as well, one of the surrealist moments I've ever had at the cinema, I was sitting during the credits, and there is a post-credits scene to this movie, by the way, but it's about 10 seconds long and pointless, yeah. But so I was about 5 minutes into the credits, and I heard this commotion behind me, and I turned around, and cinema staff were escorting someone in one of those giant inflatable T-Rex costumes that you see on memes on Facebook. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if it was a worker there and they were doing some kind of publicity thing for the release of Jurassic World. I didn't know if it was a fairly overzealous fan that had come in costume and was waiting for the next screening. I didn't know what was going on. They sat her at the back and I could hear what she was saying underneath the costume. She was like, "This is the most embarrassing moment of my life." I thought, she's a worker. An Odeon cinema have made her do this thing. They sat her down with like a box of popcorn and took a picture of her, but the head kept lolling back. So one of the workers had to go behind her, push the inflatable head forward and sort of lean out of camera shot of the picture. When I walked out afterwards, they had one of the workers dressed as the T-Rex and were taking pictures with like kids and stuff as, people were queuing up for the movie. Very weird experience. I was very confused as to what was going on for a few seconds. But yeah, just wanted to share that story. Recommendation, would you recommend going to see this movie or...
These films to me are in the Fast and Furious territory now, where if you're going in this film to see a serious film about an extinct animal being recreated via DNA 20 million years ago, you're in for a surprise, son. The first film is one of the greatest ones ever made. To me, the others, the first time I watched Jurassic Park 2, I was like, it's a bit boring. Jurassic Park 3 was, this is nonsense, but fun nonsense. And that's my kind of switch my head off film. And Jurassic World was the same. I really enjoyed that a lot more than the other films, and I thought this followed on well from that. No expectations. Again, I think that was the key. And I entertained myself. Again, I could switch my head off. So it follows Jurassic Park tropes. I think if you're a fan of the series, you'll like it, specifically if you like Jurassic World. But, I mean, this one's going to be huge. We've seen it. For those in America watching, they get it in 2 weeks' time. That's apparently because of the World Cup, which is everyone's excuse to move in films apparently the next couple of weeks. But Jurassic World, I think, goes to the cinema. It's a cinema film. You need to see it on the big screen. There's actually a shot that's got a Brachiosaurus in where its head's actually cut off for the first 10 seconds if you're at a normal cinema like me, because it was clearly like an IMAX shot.
Yeah.
But eventually it goes into frame. But I wish I would have watched this in IMAX. I don't know if I'll see it again. There's too many films out, plus the World Cup starts on Thursday, so I don't know if I'm going. However, I would recommend it and have fun. I mean, we don't really get dinosaur films anymore.
No,
excluding The Good Dinosaur.
And you know what? Dinosaurs are always cool, though. That's the thing. Like, they're always going to be cool.
My opinion of this film is I'd rather watch The Good Dinosaur again, and I know how boring that was. At least the animation style is cute enough, and the story is somewhat lovable, even if it's misguided. This film is utter trash. It is blockbuster popcorn stuffing god awfulness that is associated with some areas of modern day cinema. It's a terrible script. It's terrible, terrible character developments. They take two of the biggest stars in Hollywood right now and they put them into another terrible film. If you enjoyed the first Jurassic World film, I feel like you probably enjoy this one. If you didn't enjoy it, or if you didn't see the first film, then stay away from this with a 10-foot pole. This is just an awful, awful film.
Okay, so that'll do it for our spoiler-free section. I don't think there's anything else to say at that. That was quite a charged ending comment there. Tate, are we keeping you around for a little bit for the spoiler section, or have you got to bounce?
Around for literally the first comment of the spoiler section, then I got to go.
Okay,
I'll basically say what I was correct about.
I was going to talk about the opening scene where the Mosasaurus absolutely annihilated that man, which was amazing.
Okay, right. I want to talk about how dumb this opening scene was.
Yeah,
it was fucking dumb.
I fucking loved it. It was so stupid. It was beautiful.
It was so dumb. Okay, so it starts off, there's like this submarine going in because they need to extract a sample from the skeleton of the Indominus Rex, which they just happen to know is in that part of the sea, unless they've got some, well, they have the sonar, don't they? That's not the dumb thing. The dumb thing is they go, oh, don't worry, whatever's down there will be dead by now. This is taking place, what, 2-3 years after Jurassic World? How do they know that? Why would all the dinosaurs be dead after that point? Nothing's happened yet. The volcano hasn't gone off. As far as they know, everything's still hunky-dory. And guess what? It is hunky-dory. And guess what? They all fucking die. It's so... Oh, God. And the guy who's like the knockoff lawyer character for the opening scene of this movie, where they're like, come on, like, move away. He's like, what? And like the T-Rex is behind him and the lightning flash and he turns around. It's not there. It was so pantomime. I couldn't stand it. And the helicopter scene... They took the script of the original ending of Jurassic Park 1 that was thrown out and not used, and they just put it here. I couldn't stand this opening scene. I liked the rest of the movie. I thought it was fine. But this opening scene, like, oh, God.
I absolutely loved how stupid it was. The fact that they had the submarine people in, and I was like, oh, so the Mosasaurus that ate and annihilated the Indominus Rex, just going to, like, burp out all of its bones in a perfect body. And it was the little parachute. We all knew they were going to die.
But here's the thing: why would the Mosasaurus hang around there? Because the gates are open.
Well, it goes after, doesn't it?
Didn't it have free reign of the entire pool at that point? Because they opened the doors to like
go in.
So why?
The Mosasaurus wouldn't have known because it was. He probably saw the submarine and just followed it, and then he would have realized later. Not that I know the knowledge of a Mosasaurus.
The fact that you said it was fun and it was dumb, the fact that you said it was dumb to a film, the first film, or at least the first few films that was so clever.
A talking Velociraptor in Jurassic Park 3 is not clever.
No.
In Jurassic Park 3, a little boy surviving 3... You said the first 3.
Sorry, okay, fair enough.
Jurassic Park 3, the little boy that survives like 3 weeks or 4 weeks in a dinosaur park. Jurassic Park 2, where a little girl does an athletic move and kicks a Velociraptor out of a window. This franchise is built on dumb moments. Jurassic Park 1, as much as I love it, has 1 or 2 stupid ones.
Name some. Come on.
Do you want a dumb moment from Jurassic Park 1?
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's a fucking T-Rex. Let's start switching on the night vision goggles.
They were trying to turn them off.
Yeah, but why the fuck did they turn them on?
Because
the guy, don't, whatever you do, don't scream. Don't do it. They're all screaming. The geezer gets out of the van, runs to take a shit.
That's a natural...
Don't get me wrong, that's a brilliant... That's one of the finest T-Rex moments in history.
I think comparing those two moments, like, to me, that's a believable human reaction.
But it was the night vision stuff, you know. There are dumb moments in that, nowhere near as much as the second, third World and World 2 films.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes a franchise is built, it's like Dominic Toretto, I've got no choice. That's fucking hilarious. It's awful, but it's hilarious.
Brisbane's just been mentioned in the Fast and Furious films in the comments.
And he also says that I'm with Tate on this one, which I'm really happy about. But sadly, that's the note that I have to leave it on.
Okay.
I cannot vent any longer, and I must go.
I will continue.
I'm actually going to love this film the more George talks to me about.
I will say right now, the last thing I will say, I called the cloning moment about 40 minutes before they revealed it.
How? Really I want to know how now.
Huh? Well,
Explain how you caught it.
The first time that she was seen on screen, I immediately turned to my mate where she was upstairs, and I said, she's going to go downstairs. She's going to like find the secret base, and she's going to find out that she's a clone or some dumb shit like that. Then as soon as we saw the picture of her in the book, I immediately turned to my mate and said, she is a clone. And he just kind of laughed it off. And then as soon as the reveal happened, I looked straight ahead smiling, and he just turned to me. So I called it way before it happened, and it's such a predictably awful and dumb film.
But you didn't call that the military were scientists pretending to be military.
No, that was my suggestion for what the film should have been.
But what if your suggestion was that the girl should be a clone?
Oh, it definitely wouldn't be that, because that's an awful plot point to bring into the universe.
So a girl being a clone in a world where dinosaurs are being cloned from
this is why I couldn't be too
a worse
mad
plot point than military. Is a girl being a clone in a world where dinosaurs are built from frogs worse than military guys pretending to be military?
Who knows? Who knows?
To be fair, Tate, you've probably just pitched Colin Trevorrow Jurassic World.
I was going to say, like, Tate's predicted the clone thing. Like, he's probably gone ahead and predicted Jurassic World 3 at this point.
I mean, next video I may have to elaborate on that. But anyway, I am out, guys.
All right, dude, thanks. I'll try and pick up the mantle from where you left off. While we're on the topic of the clone thing, then, should we go ahead and say what we thought? Because I think we're going to be on the same page as this one.
I had a horrible feeling that it was going to be like the child of Laura Dern. Even 3, and there was a boy. I just had this horrible feeling that it was like going to be a really shit surprise.
See,
I know it wouldn't be.
You thought Laura Dern. I thought it was going to be the daughter of the girl from the first Jurassic Park film, the little girl from the first Jurassic Park film, because I thought age-wise it would probably work, maybe.
Would have been a young teen pregnant.
Yeah, but there was a scene, like, her granddad says, she asks about her mum, and she says, like, did my mum ever go to the park? And he said, like, once, many years ago. And the camera, like, I swear it pans down to, like, a little model of Jurassic Park from the original. And I was thinking, like, who would it be? I was like, okay, like, I don't think it would be Laura Dern. I went through, like, what you said, like, the little boy from Jurassic Park 3, it wouldn't be that. And I thought, is it the little girl? Because she kind of looks like her a little bit in the face. So I thought there was going to be that family resemblance there. But obviously we find out that it's nothing related to that, so I don't quite know why he brought up the original park in the way that he did.
I don't say I loved the fact she was a clone. It caught me off guard, and it's a concept I've thought about, that if they can clone dinosaurs, why haven't they cloned human jet in the film? And I like the fact that, you know, this is what broke apart me and Attenborough. Forget
Richard.
I
went through that whole phase of not knowing which Attenborough it is, that it's now in my mind. I know which one it is. So
I love that. You know, to be fair, Thomas Cromwell. It's Thomas Cromwell, isn't it? It was built up for him to be the villain. You know, he's ill, he's old, he's looking after his daughter. They've got a sanctuary plot to sending them to them. I thought he was going to be in on it with the psycho, which we knew was mental CEO half thing. And I was shocked he wasn't in on it, because he goes, you know, just go to bed. This is silly. Go to bed. It's the old, and actually he was a good guy who is genuinely there because, you know, I made a mistake, and we didn't say he made the mistake. I fell out with him. This is my chance to make it right.
Yeah.
And it got very dark. When he picked up the pillow, I was actually like, this is the darkest thing Jurassic Park's done, and they've had men die taking shit on toilets. They've had a man get ripped in half. He was a nice guy in the second film. You know, they've done some pretty evil things, but it was too villainous. It was almost like it felt like a James Bond, like, haha, you know my plan, I would kill you now.
Yeah.
It felt like that. But it worked for the story. It would have been too easy for him to have lived and called the police and be happy Dory. And the fact that she was a clone had, you know, that's why I knew it was going to be her that pressed the button at the end. I know I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah, me too.
And it was just what she says, you know, that they've got rights like what I do. And that's the entire point of the plot twist. And it worked for that scene. We knew the dinosaurs would get out, but it worked for the scene they were doing. And I don't think they need to explore this concept any further of the clone girl, but at least the next film, if they can retain her with Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt, there are 3 characters which are established, and we don't have to spend half an hour introducing people again.
Mm-hmm.
And she fits in with them, to be fair.
No, I thought she worked really well, and I think that's why there was an element of me that liked these two characters more in this one, because it felt like they were going after that sort of Sam Neill, Laura Dern familial aspect
relationship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I always get worried. You're the same as me. Mad Max 3, bar a short round in Indiana Jones, I've never been a fan of massive blockbusters just casting kids to try and get that younger audience invested. Worked on Jurassic Park 1, didn't like it on Jurassic Park 2, 3 bearable but not really needed. Even though it was a plot point. Jurassic World awful. And in this she worked well. Maybe even more than Jurassic Park 1 in terms of performance and how they react within the creatures. I mean, the scene when the Indoraptor like plays with her hair is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But I quite like the fact they didn't just need. I mean, she knew her stuff about dinosaurs, but she didn't know too much like Jurassic. I don't know. She worked great for the film, and I'm sure that young actress will probably have a future now, not just in this franchise, but as all, because it was a good, probably debut performance too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I thought she was great in the film. Brins has put the little girl was fine compared to the screaming guy. I've talked about him.
No, yeah, that's also true. I mean, you got the lead rant on that. He reminded me of what Trump supporters think millennials are. Everyone thinks if you're into technology now that you're not like an obese person with a beard, like what South Park famously described WoW players as. Nowadays, they all think they're these kids that wear these smuck shirts with curly hair.
Crowd kind
of. Yeah. It's Junior Rich Laiwadi. I'd much rather seen Rich Laiwadi against dinosaurs. He'd have been quality. But the minute he's introduced and he ends, why are you here again? Oh yeah, someone needs to turn on the doors. I was like, Christ, here we go. I didn't mind the other scientists, the vets. She didn't really do much, but like that was a fine. It was a good character. It worked for what they needed it for.
You didn't need the guy. You could literally. I swear to God, you could cut him out of the movie, and
all he did was open a door to then get Bryce Dallas Howard to open all the doors.
Yeah.
He was irrelevant, and it's a shame he last. I really wish he'd. I mean, we said about every character hating Jurassic Park films, but it would have been great if he'd have died.
Yeah.
There's such an easy thing to say in these films when you don't like a human character.
Just kill him off.
It's so true.
They had their moment though when that ladder that they're climbing up.
That would have been a great scene. That would have been, because I loved that. I know we hated him, but the fact the ladder dropped then, that worked so well, and it was actually quite funny. But what another thing I've got to say is I don't know if you guys, when Bryce Dallas Howard steps off the plane, she's wearing boots, and they have her stamp and have a close up of the boot just to make sure you know she's not in high heels. In this,
I didn't notice the boot, but what I did notice, which was a giant middle finger to the audience, was her first shot where the camera stops at her high heels and then the camera pans up. I thought that's got to be like a middle finger to like the people that made a big deal about that.
And then I think that was, they look at her in heels now. It got to the eye and it was literally smack boots.
Yeah,
and I thought that was quite funny. I laughed.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard herself. Did she like put muscle on for this movie? Because she looked ripped in this film. I noticed that. I don't know if that's like a weird thing to notice or not, but compared to the first movie, like I think again, like I bought her more in this movie because she seemed like that. Like Laura Dern in the first movie is like well defined. You can tell she's athletic, and I think that works for the character in like the action scenes. Whereas the first one, where it's this dainty little woman in high heel shoes that everyone complained about, I think that's why people didn't gravitate towards her in that movie.
Yeah, I wasn't. It was the stereotypical CEO. I didn't care about.
Brinsley's just put. You mean thick? Yeah, if you want. Yeah, a little bit.
THICC.
Yes. Yeah.
It was in the first film. She's just the businesswoman that doesn't care. She's really stressed because she needs to get business done. She's got the kids that she doesn't see. Blah blah blah. And they develop her in that. It's very cheap and very easy with the whole dying dinosaur in Jurassic World 1. Oh, they are real things.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like the full extreme of, I'm going to save all the dinosaurs. I like how she's, I mean, it is development, but it isn't development over the two films, but she feels more natural. The character feels more natural to Bryce Dallas Howard than in the first film. And again, with Chris Pratt, he feels more natural in this film, but he's still not as great as he's in Parks and Rec or in Guardians and stuff, but there's certainly a lot more charisma between the two of them in this one. And I think the script, I know Colin Trevorrow wrote the script with two other people, but whether the cast had some input, but they felt their screen time together worked a lot better than it did in that. The first film, they were just two completely polar opposites who were like, oh, okay, we'll get together because you have to at the end of it. Whereas in this, you know, it works their relationship, and it doesn't leave you wanting them gone for the next one. They set up those two with the girl. Okay, I can dig that going into the third film.
Yeah. I want to talk about the initial premise though, like the whole volcano thing. So can anyone explain to me the reasoning behind? So you've got Richard Attenborough's character wants to create this park with longevity that's going to be enjoyed for generations to come. Why would you build that on a site of an active fucking volcano? Now, okay, they say it's dormant. I get that, but let's explore the term dormant. Dormant means a volcano that is still active and will go off at some point, but right now it's inactive, it's sleeping, but there will be a point where it explodes. Why build a park there?
I was the only one that laughed in the film when it cuts to BBC News, and it's like, the volcano is now active again.
Yeah.
I just laughed.
I was like, there was a fucking volcano in the first place? What?
It was that lone chuckle to yourself.
It reminded me of, it was like the Grievous line from Revenge of the Sith. It is a volcanic planet. You will be safe there. Like, I don't know.
It was funny. It was so... It's like, okay, basically, I think the board meeting would have gone, right, guys, I want to do another Jurassic Park film, but we now need to make sure we can't go back to the island. Okay, let's destroy the island. But why? Volcano.
That's dinosaur-y. That happened, right? In the Cretaceous.
And then period. I think it was your comment to me was, but there's a second island.
Yeah, and I swear, like, you've gone back and watched Jurassic World. I can't remember if they ever gave a reason in canon of what happened to Isla Sorna, which was the sister island to Isla Nublar. Like, as far as I know, I know the military rocked up at the end of Jurassic Park 3, but I thought that was just to get them off the island.
Yeah.
As far as we know, the dinosaurs are still there. That was self-sustaining because, like, the laboratory and everything had been ransacked years and years before, as far as we know. There was no humans on the island. It was all run by the dinosaurs. Just move them there. They talk about, like, we've got a patch of land that we're going to move them to that's like a sanctuary. Whether they did actually have that or whether that was just all just a cover in the first place. But you've got an entire other island. Hell, you could, like, set up another park there if you wanted to. They probably wouldn't do that because of the fallout from Jurassic World. But the point is you still have somewhere to move them, and they didn't bring it up. So I don't know if they've wiped 3 out of continuity or if it was just an oversight. I don't know. But there was a lot of sort of plot holes in the franchise that started to come up a little bit with that.
It just felt very, I think you said to me, it just felt very last minute added on.
Yeah.
I like the fact the island's gone. Not as dramatic as the posters. The park is dead. Literally, because they've wiped Jurassic Park off the titles and the merchandise now. They're trying to make Jurassic World a thing. It's like Disney with the Star Wars episode numbers.
Yeah.
They don't want episode numbers, but they will always be there. It's like Jurassic Park. I've been calling some Jurassic Park to everyone, and that's what it will be. It's Jurassic Park 5.
Yeah.
I like the fact now, jumping ahead, that we've got dinosaurs in the real world. Not real world, sorry. Dinosaurs in it's not a plot twist. I mean, in this film, Jeff Goldblum says it in the trailer. You know, welcome to Jurassic World. Roll credits, literally. It needed to happen to elevate this franchise to the next level. They needed to put the dinosaurs in the real world and not in an awful way like what Jurassic Park 2 did, where they just have the King Kong ending.
Yeah.
This was, you know, they're roaming free, and it has a very weird montage that, like the Oasis out of Ready Player One, of all these dinosaurs fitting in with the humans. This brilliant shot of a velociraptor on the hill of an estate, so it's going to murder every single one in there.
It's only one of every species, though, isn't it?
That's what I thought. And
they're not going to survive. They're going to survive for a little bit, like however much lifespan they've got left, but they're not going to be able to procreate or anything like that. I mean, I said to you in Tape we hit record. This film reminds me of Rise of the Planet of the Apes more than anything else, because it ends with Blue, who we haven't even spoke about, who we'll get to later. But Blue is like, she has to given the choice of the cage to be with the humans or to roam free in the jungle. She picks the roam free in the jungle. She's the most intelligent species around. She can interact with humans, and I really hope that. I mean, if they're going to run with the Jurassic Park one thing where, because they're from frog DNA, they can reproduce. So whether Jurassic World 3 is going to start with loads of dinosaur eggs, I don't know. But I like the fact that, I mean, it was clear their plan of Jurassic World to get them into
get them onto the rest of the world. Technically, it's like Planet of the Apes in the sense that they're actually in America, not the world. But you got the awful credit scene with the pterodactyls in Vegas on the Eiffel Tower.
Completely pointless. It was like an insert shot. They like in the editing process, like they went like, we're going to cut this scene out and we'll decide what to do with it later on, and they dragged it to the end of the timeline. But they like exported the movie and got it ready for production and just forgot that they had that 10-second shot at the end.
I mean, I'm not lying, I didn't save the credit scene. I literally got on my phone on the credits, searched what's the Jurassic Park credit scene, and then all the comments were, it's just 2 pterodactyls flying around the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And it's plot twist, it's not Paris, it's Vegas.
Yeah.
It was just to re-establish the point they're on the Earth now. Jeff Goldblum, I love Jeff. I knew we were only going to get him in one scene, so it was nice they split one scene into 2. You know, welcome to Jurassic World.
That was pandering. It was pandering bringing him back.
It was too obvious. Yeah. I hope there's a role for him, a proper role in Jurassic World 3. I mean, when this... I wouldn't say he's on a return to form, but I want to say with Ragnarok, certainly, and with his recent Wes Anderson films, Jeff's back in the limelight more than he has been for a few years.
I'd say that started with Independence Day resurgence, if I'm going to watch that movie again. But I really hated what they did with him in that. Like, he was very wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and he's kind of has been that way since that movie. But he's been more likable in like the things of like
Ragnarok. I mean, Thor was perfect,
and he wasn't in this movie enough to really outstay his welcome. Like, he shows up in 2 small scenes, and that's it.
He's there like, we need a guy that can talk about who has history of the dinosaurs, and it was Jeff Goldblum, which worked. That could have been any of the original 3. And maybe there's a role from them. I think because I'm such a Ragnarok hype. This awful Willy Wonka film. I messaged you and Tate and said, guys, the only way the Willy Wonka film will work if Taika Waititi directs it and Jeff Goldblum plays Willy Wonka, and now you're all hooked. I think there's a role for him in the 3rd film. If they genuinely want to run with it and not have him in a wink, nudge, nudge, one scene, there is a role for him if it's needed. I just don't want the 3rd film to start with humans living perfectly with dinosaurs. That'd be weird.
Prince has put on here, he's put the next stop has to be that awful human dino hybrid idea.
Thank God that I was worried that would reserve it. Basically, for anyone that's listening doesn't know, the original concept art and role for Jurassic World 1 was that they were going to merge the humans with the raptors to make super soldiers.
Yeah.
That was the original Jurassic World pitch. Of course, if you look at the end of Jurassic World, they run off with the briefcase with all of the DNA in, and you're thinking, damn, is it going to happen in the Jurassic World? And I was worried at some point that they would come in. It didn't happen. And of course, they did the usual, we're going to take away. BD Wong makes it to the next film. He takes away all of the DNA again and runs off in the nick of time.
Like a Saturday morning cartoon bad guy, isn't he? That's just like, I'll get you next time, Gadget.
He's having his Thanos build-up. It's been like he's been in 3 films now. And like, it's going to be like Infinity War, but Jurassic Infinity or something. I love the Indoraptor. I'm going to relate on him. You know, the whole he said what I like. I think the reason why I think I was behind the Indoraptor, it wasn't really going to create a terrifying raptor to rain terror. BD Wong had some great lines with the stupid CEO that, you know, our prototype didn't work because it was a prototype. It didn't have a mother figure to take orders from. Blah blah blah. They explained the concept of the prototype and why they needed Blue to make the real one. And then it's the prototype that's let loose. And I was behind that because, to me, okay, it was cheap and easy still. But I think that worked in the sense that they've explained that this isn't the Indoraptor they've tried to make. So they haven't just copied the Indoraptor, though they kind of have. There's a vague reasoning behind it and stuff. But I did see an interview this week where Colin Trevorrow has said that they don't need to do another a mixed dinosaur villain for the 3rd film. And I think with the ending we get with the dinosaurs let loose,
you've got your villain there. Essentially, it's just going to be regular dinosaurs, isn't it?
It's going to be, you know, Blue's going to come in and save the day. Not Mary Sue, Mary Blue. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I loved the Indoraptor. The design was great. I thought it was terrifying. It had a couple of cool, but no more. I love the Indominus Rex. I love the Indoraptor. Come on. You don't need to do the Indo Triceratops or some. There doesn't need to be another one.
Yeah.
It's like the Death Star, isn't it? It's more like originally. You've had Death Star 1, you've had your Death Star 2. We can live with Death Star 2. Star Killer Base is like, come on, there wasn't any need for
that. It was kind of same, especially when we got to like Blue fighting the genetically modified dinosaur again at the end. It did feel again like it was retreading over more of the same territory. What did I want to talk? First, I want to talk about how dumb like the bad guys' plot is for this one. So their plan is to sell these dinosaurs off to the highest bidder to use in military.
I think did he explain he wanted to? I'm going to sell all the dinosaurs to then use all of the money from selling the dinosaurs to fund building the cross-species dinosaurs.
I thought he was just I thought he was just getting it to have money because money's powerful and money's great and he's a really two-dimensional bad guy. But like that the one that they describe as the tank, I forgot what it's called, with like the club tail. That's a herbivore. So you put that in a military situation, like you're not going to be able to make that program to attack the opposing side. Like it's just going to be thrashing around everywhere. And like, I know it's a big dinosaur. I know it's got armored skin, but I'm sure like a couple of well-placed bullets to the head is still going to take that thing down. So there's no advantage to having dinosaurs on the battlefield because they're still just going to get killed like any other soldier. And like the whole Endoraptor thing, they have this concept where they've got this gun where they'll train a laser sight on someone, then they'll hit a button and that'll put some kind of like homing beacon onto that target. And that's what the dinosaur will automatically go for. But unless you've got that gun on you at all time, if you throw that gun away or something, that's immediately going to turn on you and like take you down. So I don't get why people would spend millions and millions of dollars on these things when they're completely untamable in any kind of organized military situation. Like, what's a Velociraptor going to like sit down at like a boardroom meeting and like planning out some like complex military strategy, and it's just going to go into the battlefield? Like, it's a really dumb idea, and that's what I mean. Like, if you go into this movie and you know it's dumb, but you just go in for the dino action, it's fine. But the plot just falls apart anytime you think about it, at least to me anyway. Maybe I missed something. Maybe there's a line that gives it a bit more credibility. But as far as I know, they just wanted to buy these dinosaurs to use in, you know, maybe they'd make their own little mini Jurassic Park, like a petting zoo, and get loads of money from it. I don't know.
I had this concept. You know, they kept going to the Russian guy. Yeah. No one else they cared about bidding, just the Russian guy. Obviously, without getting into 2018 politics and stuff. The only thing I can hear in my head, and the only thing I was seeing was like hearing the Russian national anthem at the World Cup on Thursday, and Putin emerging like riding a T-Rex. Like that's all. I mean, it was like the whole concept of the auction. I liked it because it was so dastardly Saturday morning. You had Toby Jones in the creepiest performance of this massive fake teeth, weird American accent, and Donald Trump ginger hair. Mm-hmm. And he was this like arrogant businessman who's, I sell 1 million a day. It was like, you're going to get one of those deaths, because with the Jurassic Park franchise, you know someone's going to die when they're introduced on screen.
Yeah,
except the nurse, the nanny.
Yeah, what happened to her? She
walked. I thought there was going to be. So in her first scene, she says to the girl, "You're going to be the death of me," and I was there like, she just signed her death warrant.
Yeah.
And she randomly gets sacked, but sacked nicely to leave and not die. I was expecting her to walk out of the room and be fed to a dinosaur or something.
Yeah.
But she walked out free. Plot twist. The one that said the dinosaur girl won't be the death of her didn't die.
Well, she was like a fairly innocent, nice character, really, wasn't she?
So was that stupid assistant in Jurassic World who was sort of raped by pterodactyls.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that.
That was brutal, and I still think about how brutal that is.
Another probably the most brutal. I think they actually dialed back the violence. I was hoping for a little bit more. It was mostly off camera in this movie, but Ted Levine's character, who I said like that has that thing with like the pulling teeth. The arm rip was actually really brutal, and I love how he played that. How he was like crying and like whimpering in the cage when it was right in his face. I thought that was really good. What I didn't go on, sorry.
I was gonna say I love the fact that we knew it was fine and stuff. We knew it was gonna be this moment. They kept raising the tail like a laugh and like to try and like.
That's the bit I didn't like. Like the tail was fine.
Too obvious.
Faked its death, but it was really pantomime. Like it opened its eyes and it almost like winked at the camera, like smirked. I was like, would a dinosaur smirk? Like it's intelligent, but why would it need to smirk?
I just love the fact that it's holding him in midair with the hand. It wasn't just turn, bite, pull off. It raises him above the ground and then snaps through.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. And I mean, that's the first kill. That's its first kill. And it's a great bit. Then you have the Toby Jones death, which is quality. He runs into the elevator and all the posh people are there. And he just throws the woman out because he wants to hide at the side. And then the elevator breaks. I didn't think that would happen. I thought it'd be the usual, that it would get in just in the nick of time and drag him out. Actually, he was fine, and then the Indoraptor. I'm assuming it killed the other 4.
Yeah, it would have just teared everyone up, wouldn't it? In the that was a really weirdly edited scene, though, because I thought like he'd got in the elevator, it was going to go up, and then it would like head him off or something and get to the top. But like because it cuts to black, doesn't it? I think when the doors hit, it almost looks like the elevator's rising up, and there's that moment of relief, and then the doors just randomly open again. No, it short circuits out, doesn't it? I think it cuts to the
Indoraptor turns around, its tail smacks the thing and breaks it, and the doors just open, and then it just eats them all.
There is a lot of dumb shit in this movie. Like especially around this part of the movie, the dumbest thing for me was Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard get locked in a cage along with all the dinosaurs. They just happen to be next to the dinosaur that like headbutts things, like the two that like charge at each other. And they like piss it off a lot and like coax it out so that it headbutts through the wall into their jail cell, and then he gets it in an angle where it knocks out the door. Every single time this dinosaur's got it in for Chris Pratt, like he's trying to murder him, until it's outside the cage, and then it just kind of loses interest and like is on their side now, I guess, because he set it free. I thought that was really dumb. Like
the first time, I wonder this. I recognize this species just naturally. You recognize dinosaur species from like books, toys, and stuff. I don't know. Was this in Jurassic Park 2? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it was.
Was it in the tent scenes?
It was in the scenes where like they're wrangling the dinosaurs. They get the one with like the giant antler thing on its head, but there's another one there. No, it is in that movie. Yeah,
I thought I'd recognize it from the films, but that was a bit stupid. I loved when it just charges at all the people. They're all scared of this one that's just headbutting people.
You just see people like flying, like cartwheeling through the air and shit. I
was expecting the Indoraptor to just annihilate this dinosaur as it got close to itself, but it didn't. It just watched and waited. And this is the thing. Like it is like the Fast and Furious films. That's how I've seen this franchise now for a long time. That if you're in it to take it seriously, you're in the wrong cinema. Yeah. You're in the wrong film. There's nothing serious about a film. I mean, Jurassic Park, yes. Jurassic Park 2 gets too serious, which is the downfall. Yeah. I'm saying Jurassic Park 3 does make it a bit funner. And actually trying to make something dark funner doesn't work. It makes it sort of not mischief, but a bit pointless. And then that's Jurassic World just lifted that one further. I think what's stupid about Jurassic World 1 is the fact that it's trying to be funny, and they're the bits that come off stupid. Whereas this one, it's almost as if they embraced it, which works to the degree of how I went into the film.
I think that's what it needs to be at this stage. Like as I said, like it's never going to go back to what it was. This is its new identity now, and I think it found itself with this one. This is like the Fast and Furious 5 of the Jurassic Park franchise. Like it's now refound itself. Essentially, like it staggered along the way after the first one to try and work out what it wanted to do. Now it knows what it wants to do, and that's the way I see it. The last scene I want to talk about, like really dumb, like the villain guy at the end. He thinks that the best hiding spot with dinosaurs running towards him, as opposed to just running off to the side, is to hide under a car that they're actually charging over, and it's like crushed him into the floor.
I thought he'd already died when the tires flattened, and then like he lived. It reminded me, one of my favorite parts of Jurassic World 1 is when there's that random like Bob the security guard or something, and like the Indo-Rex is behind him and he just throws the truck away and just eats him. I was expecting a carbon copy of that, but in this he just emerges and gets, I mean, he's going to die by the T-Rex, let's be honest. You knew straight away. Also, the biggest thing that got me, how on earth I kept laughing when the T-Rex is in its little cage. They just get the T-Rex into an elevator, take it down into a tiny cell. It's a giant fucking T-Rex.
Yeah.
I kept laughing at that.
That bit as well where they're taking the blood from the T-Rex and it's like waking up and it starts thrashing around. They apparently subdue it by just locking the door of the lorry that it's in. Like, I know it's probably chained down and stuff, but that thing looked like it was getting up quick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it would probably tip over the lorry, in all fairness, like if it was like, you know, thrashing around in the back of it. So there's that too.
It reminded me of the troll from Harry Potter 1. Where like the bogey comes out and the stuff like that, and that's what it felt like. It was a really weird scene.
Yeah, like they ride the troll, don't they, in Harry Potter, and like she gets on like top of the T-Rex in this one as well. It was played for like I didn't mind that scene actually. I thought it was okay.
What I loved, I think, of that boat stuff, the Brachiosaurus's death.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to this scene because I know you mentioned this earlier. I really like this scene.
That was maybe one of the strongest scenes in the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that like they all turn around and it's just stood there, and it is quite sad. I mean, that's the only time I think the soundtrack's good because it's like it's like the depressing Jurassic Park theme.
Yeah,
and obviously with the Brachiosaurus, you associate that with the park the first time you see it, so you've just got this one left. And it just like disappears into the smoke. But what makes it like great is the fact you get the shadows. Then the neck eventually drops down.
Yeah.
And then they kind of think like, damn, like that's a species that they would have wanted to take too.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you're going to be able to get his neck in a bloody boat, are you?
I think it was the tallest living dinosaur, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah. And it was a really good. It was a sad scene. I think that's when you know it's worked.
Yeah, no, I really like that. So I thought that was well done. Cinematography was really good in that as well. How like you had the flashes from the volcano, as you said, like the silhouette, you could still see it a little bit behind the clouds. I thought that was really nice how they did that.
Could the Brachiosaurus have lived if it walked into the water? This is what I kept wondering. I mean, they've got a giant neck.
I don't know how deep it is. Like it would get so far that it'd kind of just be like stood there, like, well, fuck, like a periscope, I guess. Like
it's like you know when you're like on holiday and you go into the sea. Not
you see how far you can walk.
You see how walking your head's propped up, like yeah. That would have been that, and then would have got hit by like a submarine or something.
Well, he's just gonna like stand in the water and just wait till it all blows over, and then he's gonna go back onto the island. Other things that I didn't like there were a lot of references to the other ones. You've got like the Endoraptor like tapping its claw on the floor, like when the Velociraptor was frustrated when it was looking for the kids in the first one. You had the goat again from Jurassic Park 1. The fact that there's an injured dinosaur that they're having to like bring back to health was Lost World. And I swear to God, they recreated a shot almost entirely where the girl from the first one, when she's like trying to bring the door down of the kitchen, and the Velociraptor charges it, and she just gets it down in time. They do that with a dumb waiter in this, where she's trying to bring the cover down on it, and then it runs into that. There's just loads of little things like that. The one reference I did like was the portrait of
John Hammond.
Yeah, I was.
Is it John Hammond?
Yeah, it's John Hammond. Yeah, you're right. I liked that, and they play like a little bit of the Jurassic Park music. I liked that part, but there's some references there where it's like not as blatant as, say, like The Force Awakens is with stuff, or some of the Star Wars movies with its previous ones, but it's just stuff like, I get it.
The Amber Cane smashing, it was a great shot, and I was like, oh, well, you've got the cane too?
Yeah.
You can buy a replica now for £250 online, by the way.
Worth it.
But, yeah, there was some references work, some didn't. I liked seeing the destroyed Jurassic World theme park.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not really nostalgic because it's 3 years ago, but it kind of was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else. I think we've kind of dissected. I mean, let's be honest, there's not really much in it. The Indoraptor, like I said, it's just a villain. There's some fucking beautiful shots, I've got to say that, though. I think it's in the trailer. I'm assuming, I mean, everything's in the trailer, but where it goes up in the moonlight, it's standing. I mean, a lot of people have said this film is very gothic.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly the second half feels like this kind of hot. It reminds me of like one of the Alien films. You've just got the villain.
I was going to say,
people.
It might not be the Alien film you want me to compare it to, though, but I kind of compare it to Alien Covenant, and I don't think you've still seen that movie yet.
I still haven't seen it yet, no.
you probably know that it basically ends in a recreation of the one alien chasing her in the ship. And that's kind of what I felt like in this one, in that it's quite a long scene. It's quite over the top and bombastic, and it feels very been there. It essentially feels like the kitchen scene from the first Jurassic Park film on steroids.
Yeah, with a Velociraptor added into fights.
Yeah, and you've got an entire mansion this time. Like, it reminded me of like the kitchen scene going into the climbing down the skeleton scene a little bit from the first one. There's a scene where it cuts to characters and they're on a computer trying to do something or shut something down or turn something on, whatever it was. So it is very samey, but again, there's only so much you can do with Jurassic Park. Either you have the dinosaurs trashing, you know, like real life LA or wherever it was, San Francisco, I can't remember where it was in Jurassic Park 2, or you just have them facing down the big bad dinosaur at the end, and that tends to be how these movies go. So it was a fine ending for what it is, but it did feel very samey to me.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything new as such for the franchise, but I'd much rather have that than them on the island doing the usual, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If I was going to rank these films at this point from best to worst, I'd have Jurassic Park 1, 3, this, you know, Fallen Kingdom, then I'd probably do Lost World, and then Jurassic World would be my least favorite.
Jurassic Park, like a million miles above the next four. I don't know if I prefer this to Jurassic World. Jurassic World feels funner, but I like how different they are within their own rights. I'd probably just go for him and say Jurassic Park 1, then Jurassic World 1 and 2 rotate. Give me time to you know, and then Jurassic Park 3, and then Jurassic Park 2. Jurassic Park 3 is just so short, but I like what it is.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park 2 is just, I mean, they adapted the Jurassic Park 2 book, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's like, if it is true they're going to do a Ready Player 2, I know that Spielberg won't jump on and direct Ready Player 2 if they're going to do one. That was a film that the second they put a dinosaur on an island and take it to America, that film died.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, there's potential for the third film, isn't there? Trevorrow's directing, which is, I mean, he's the only reason he didn't do just this film is because he was originally directing Star Wars 9.
Yeah.
So fair play, Kathleen Kennedy, for giving this film to someone else and then taking him off your one. Frank Marshall probably had a conversation with like, "Yo, Kathy, can you take off my shoulders for one film, and then we'll take him off your shoulders."
Yeah.
So that's how they do business.
I don't know how I feel with Colin Trevorrow coming back for the next one. It's framed it in an interesting way where the franchise can go, though. I won't go so far as to say I'm looking forward to the next one, but it should be interesting, like how that movie will play out. But I've pretty much said everything I can on this one. I thought it was an entertaining enough movie. It's not trying to be smart or anything like that. It is inherently a dumb movie. It does have a lot of problems, but if you can just forgive it for what it is, just go and see a 2-hour dinosaur movie, take your popcorn with you. You're going to have a good time with it. So that'll do it for our review on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of this film. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Did you prefer it to Jurassic World? How would you order the films? Anything Jurassic Park related, please do drop us a comment. Thanks to everyone in the chat tonight who's been watching. Brinsley, you're an absolute trooper for watching all these live streams today. I don't know what our next video is going to be. There's going to be a whole bunch more reaction videos. There's a whole load of trailers that have come out that I need to catch up on. There'll be a Halloween trailer reaction. First Man, I believe it's called, isn't it?
Looks awful.
And I recorded one for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse today. How to Train Your Dragon. There's going to be like 4 or 5 videos going up in the next couple of days. So be sure to check those out. In terms of our next review, I keep getting muddled of what the next movies are that are coming out. I think we've got a week off, haven't we now? I don't think there's a big release until...
There's not really any big releases over in England soon. A lot of film companies have ran scared of the World Cup.
Yeah.
It was just, I mean, basically, guys, put it this way, if you're watching in America, they're probably expecting, we're going to get an Incredibles 2 review and then an Ant-Man review. Incredibles, we got delayed a month, and Ant-Man, we got delayed another month on top of that because they were... Ant-Man got delayed in England because they delayed Incredibles a month, and rather than have 2 Disney films at the same time, they thought, well, instead of delaying one film 2 months, let's delay 2 films 1 month each. Nonsense, both nonsense. So I genuinely don't know the UK film schedule. We've said many times before, this is a very, very weak summer movie blockbuster season.
Yeah.
There aren't actually many big blockbusters coming out at all this year. This was the last massive one. The Incredibles will be out, I think, like mid-July over here. Obviously, we'll be back way before that. But we genuinely don't know what's coming next by your absolute maelstrom of reactions, because at least 6 or 7 trailers dropped in the space of like a day.
Yeah, it's been absolutely, especially for animated films as well. Like the animated movies have really been kicking it up a notch with the trailers. But as I said, like we're going to continue into summer movie season regardless. We're just going to have to wait a while till those movies come out. Like we've got Christopher Robin coming out. There's Mission Impossible 6, as you said, Ant-Man, and Incredibles 2. There's movies coming out. We're just going to have to wait a little bit for them, but we'll have reviews on those when they come out. We might throw in another Battle of the Brackets in the meantime before we get another movie come out. I know we've got our idea planned for the next one of what we want to do, and we're always talking about ideas as well of other shows. I think that Tate's talking about bringing back Film Club. There's going to be stuff on the channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button if you just discovered us through this video. Please do share, spread the word, all that good stuff, and until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. And we've got a problem now because my mouse has gone. The battery in my mouse has gone, so I can't actually close the live stream off. You're going to have to bear with me, folks. This is very unprofessional. Oh my God, are we ever going to end? There we go. Boom. See you guys.